Isabelle, and I'm doing a project on the art of chemical reactions in cake baking. My hypothesis is that some cakes will be amazingly normal, and others will look, smell, taste, and feel different. We'll be making our first cake with all the ingredients: flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, milk, vegetable oil, vanilla, and eggs. So let's get baking! Well, I measured out all our ingredients, so let's start by putting 3 of our dry ingredients into this bowl. So we've got our flour, 1, 2 pinches of salt, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let's mix it together. Now, we'll put sugar, and oil into our mixing bowl. Get this on there. Now, mix the oil and sugar in the first stage of mixing for several minutes. That's a bunch of bubbles. Okay, now. Oh, wait. Now, let's put the rest of our wet ingredients in. We have some milk. We have our vanilla. Wow, I'm here. And now, our egg. It may have looked like orange juice, but it was an egg. Okay, now let's put our mixture in of the rest of our dry ingredients. Some of you may be wondering, why can't you plop all the ingredients together at once? Well, the answer is, with the proper mixing, you'll get a velvety texture, and you get it. But when you plop them all in together at the same time, you get a dense, rubbery doorstop. Okay? My dad just took this out of the oven. I'm going to test it now. See how we test it? Ah, perfectly clean. Now, this one doesn't have any baking powder at all. Not even a pinch. Number 1, this one is entirely normal. And number 2 doesn't have sugar. See how it's really dense and dark? It's a little globbly gloopy. Now, the differences are that number 1 got all poofed up and all brown, and number 2 stayed a little dense and got a little globbly gloopy. Then this one, number 3, barely got brown. 3 down, 3 to go. Okay, number 3 just got out of the oven, so now we have to label it. Labeling is really important so that we remember which cake is which. Now, number 4, which has no vanilla, is about to go in the oven as soon as we fill this tin. So, well, I think that it won't have a very good flavor because vanilla usually brings out the flavor. But we don't know that because it has sugar. And the sugar one doesn't have any flavor. I decided to leave egg out of this one because I want to see what happens when you leave out the egg. Oops. Whoa. That was a little weird, but still. All right. Now, pour in the oil. I'll give this an extra stir. Now, put this in. Oh. So, there you go. Okay, I've got to go get the scrapey-doo. I'm doing the scrapey-doo now because the flour sometimes gets all up on the edges. So, now, oh yeah, so, while it mixes, all mixed, it's all mixed, so now we're going to have to turn this off again. Like, immediately I turn it on, then it's immediate thing. Okay. Now we're done mixing. Now that this cake is done, we'll be making another one with no oil. And I don't know how they're gonna turn out, but I'll see you at the end of the show when everything is out of the oven and we'll discuss our findings. This is gonna be funny, okay? Sugar with nothing! Wanna know a secret? I'm baking an extra cake. It's gonna have all the leftover ingredients, all the spills. Okay. I wonder what it'll do. These are baked. Let's separate our cake's similarities and differences. So we'll start with cake number 1. It looks pretty good. It smells pretty good. We're gonna leave taste out until we actually cut them, and it feels pretty moist. Now moving on to number 2. It looks more dark. It smells a little, since it doesn't have sugar, it's a little more dark and it smells way bad and it's very, very extra moist. Now move on to number 3, which eliminates baking powder. It looks pretty much like number 1. It smells pretty much like number 2, and it feels pretty hard, just enough. Now moving up to number 4. Looks as good as number 1. Smells like number 1, and it feels a little harder. Now number 5 is actually a little more filling up, a little more dark around the edges. Smells exactly like number 2, and it eliminates egg, plus it feels really hard. And number 6, which has no oil, looks kind of more pulled up. It smells fine, but it's as hard as a rock. Now, moving up to number 7. It's really, really dark, probably because of the caramel that's added. It smells a lot more like caramel, and it feels really moist. So, now we're going to cut the cakes open. Let's take number 1 out of its thing, and we're going to cut it open. So, it's pretty easy to cut open. Yeah. It looks a little watery at the top, and then as we go down, it gets a little more fuzzy. And now we're going to take okay, see? Now we're going to take a little taste. Delicious. Now we're going to put it back together and simply set it in. Now, let's take out number 2, which has no sugar. As you should know, it's just my daddy told me to say that. Come on, Mama, just eat. Pretty watery on the inside. Take a little taste. No. Sorry, that's my sister's. Ugh. My chocolate. Has no flavor. Simply at all. Tastes gross. You do not want to leave sugar out of cake. You do not want to leave sugar out of cake, ever. Because it'll have absolutely no flavor at all. Except for dirt flavor. Okay, now we're moving on to number 3. Cutting it up. Looks pretty good. Looks really watery at the top, then gets fuzzy at the bottom. It even has a little hole. Tastes pretty good. Now, number 4. Let's just try to get it out. Remove it, put put it on. Pretty good on the outside. Probably pretty good on the inside too. Looks pretty good. Pretty fluffy. Pretty wet at the top. Now, for the taste test. So-and-so. Now, next one. Number 5. More wet in the top and the center. Pretty good. Now, number 6 has no oil. But it does have spray oil. But only an antsy-weensy bit. Okay, this is hard to cut into. But I'll be able to do it. Okay, Dad. A little wet at the top, but just meansy wet. Meansy bit, I mean. Tastes a little weird. Now that we've cut open all our cakes and tasted them, okay, I know some of you will be asking about frosting, but frosting's a different show, okay? What? I said frosting was a different show. Okay, fine. Have to do it now. Look, as you can see, if you leave sugar out of a cake, it gets darker and denser, and it feels really moist. And then when you taste it, it tastes completely gross. That's why I spit it out in the taste test.
Yeah,
it was gross.
My turn.
Mom. If you leave out baking powder, it kind of gets a little hard. And on the inside, there's like this big, fat air pocket. And it tastes kind of weird. Now, if you leave out vanilla, it kind of feels a little hard, just like a notch harder than the first one. And it looks different on the inside, and it tastes kind of weird and new. If you do it without egg, the sides get all brown. If you look inside, it's really wet. And then if you leave out oil, it gets really tall and looks different on the inside. It tastes completely gross. And so you see, I was trying to figure out what happens when you leave out certain ingredients from cakes. So, if you ever bake a cake and you don't have all the ingredients needed, don't just go ahead and use the ingredients you have. because if you just leave out the ingredients you don't have, it would just make something totally gross and it'll look bad. So if you are missing an ingredient, always go to the store and buy it. So I learned that if you leave a certain ingredient out of cake, that it might make it harder, drier, it might look bad, smell bad, taste bad. So never ever leave any ingredients out of cake. That's all for now. Bye!